Moin Moin! Greetings! Donespektor here! Today with a review of technically not an audio product, or rather a Bluetooth audio product. And as you may already be able to see, this is not going to be an expensive thing. But unfortunately it's also not a cheap thing. So let's get right into it. What I'm going to review today is the TRN BT20S Pro. Yes. And what this is, let's already get the packaging here. It's a Bluetooth dongle. So you actually get two pieces because you have 2 ears. You should have 2 ears most likely. And yeah, you just plug in your IEM of your choice because it does come with an adapter of your choice. You can either have 2-pin, MMCX, and I think there are even more weird connectors I haven't encountered so far personally. So yes, this thing is unfortunately priced at $70 originally. And to already give you a small spoiler, I think that might be a bit too steep for what you're actually getting. But yeah, more about that later on. So first, let's start with what you get in the box. And yes, this box is actually pretty small and handy. And what you get is, well, technically nothing besides the case itself and a really short charging cable, which I already lost, I think, because it's so short. And yeah, you do get, as you've seen, the manual, and that's about it. There's still the warranty card, but you shouldn't be needing that at any point. So yes, as you can see, it supports AAC. It also has its app tags, and then of course SBC, because that's what all Bluetooth headphones usually nowadays do support. And here you can see I did choose the MMCX connector, and yeah, that works pretty nice. But before we get into what works and what doesn't, we start with build. And yes, this thing has actually a zipper. So it's pretty handy to use. And the case itself is, I think, artificial leather. And here it's a bit more solid because the battery is in the bottom. So when you open it, you do get this net here where you can store an additional pair of tips, which I do in this case. And these are silicone tips. And then obviously you do get the two dongles and these hooks, and the IEM is obviously not included. You're just paying the $70 for the dongles themselves. Here I did have mounted the TIN T2 Plus, mostly because I think those or similar priced IEMs are the choice you will usually do when you buy a dongle like that. And let's start with build of the case. So the case is decently built. It doesn't feel like it would break at any minute, and it feels solid enough. The zipper does work, and overall, I think you can actually just throw it in your bag. It will most likely survive it without any problem. Now, before we go to the dongles themselves, let's take a look on the inside. So you do have here 2 charging pins, and this like weird ear shape, and here you would store the actual in-ear. And I can already tell you what some other reviews also have mentioned, and I only just skimmed them. I never read them fully because I just wanted to have a nice portable in-ear thingy, so I just grabbed it. Those, the T2 Plus here, they do fit in okay. However, if I try to fit in my Ice-End H40s, those won't. They're just too big, too tall, like they just don't go in the case. So that is already a bit of a bummer. But yeah, let's go back to build quality. This feels solidly made. The actual dongles, they do just stay in here safely. I never encountered them shaking loose when transporting them in my bag. And yeah, the case itself I think is solid. It's on the chunky side, okay, yeah, but I mean, it has a big battery. According to the guy, and then I forget the description, I think it says 72 hours in the case, and I can't verify it at the moment because I used the dongles my last work week, and I actually managed to empty the case in the week. So that is a bit weird, but I also don't know how fully it was actually charged. Okay, now let's move from the case to our actual dongles, and these are also just mediocre build. The gaps in here are not too big, but they're also not on the small side. And I'm not sure if those are actually like waterproof. I don't think they are. I mean, the gaps definitely suggest otherwise. Moving on to the other side, here you obviously get the advertising TRN and one single button, and that's about it, what you can suspect or what you will get about the Bluetooth dongle. I think if I would just evaluate how much I think it would be worth just by watching it, I would say it's probably like between 30 and 50 euros. That's how cheaply those I think are made. However, we have one good feature, and this is you can actually just unplug the top piece and substitute it with an other piece. So here I think this connector is always 2-pin in the inside. And here, as I said, this is MMCX, but you can get 2-pin, and the other choice you have was also printed on the back. It is there are two versions of 2-pin, 0.75 and 0.78 millimeters, and then there's 2-pin S, which I don't even know what that means, but okay. So yes, that's a pretty neat feature. You can just grab another pair, for example, the blondes and BLO0, and you can just get a 2-pin connector and just plug it in and unplug it whenever you need it. That's really nice, I think. And I have read some opinions who state that this thing actually gets loose if you do connect it too often. And so far, I haven't encountered it getting loose at any point, even for then just walking outside to my workplace and back. So yes, that's about everything I can tell you about the build. It's, as I said, like between 30 and 50 euro, I would estimate just from looking at it. And the next point I'm going to cover is usability, and those are, I think, they are like a mixed bag, like seriously mixed bag. As I already mentioned, those hooks that you can actually change them and have different connectors, that's a really neat idea, and I like the implementation as well, especially for the price. However, there is an issue, I think, with this implementation, and I mean the ear hooks themselves. As you can see, they are springy, and my main problem with this is it does work for this shape and for this shape of in-ear and for the shape of my ear, but there are obviously other shape of in-ears and ears themselves. So if your ear is maybe smaller, you will have issues because that thing is just dongling above your ear, or if your ear is bigger, you might have issues because this thing actually will sit on top of your ear and cause pain. So I would really have liked to have like metal that actually is bendable and stays in shape, so you can have it like that and it actually stays there, or bend it more like this so it stays here, but it's a bit springy. I don't like this kind of implementation for the actual hooks themselves. So moving on to the button, and it is a normal Bluetooth dongle, so you unfortunately do not get any volume control, so you just get play, pause, take the call, reject the call, and most of the other controls you want to have. Play music, pause music, and so on. And the button itself, I think, I'm a bit conflicted here, because on the one side, the pressure point is nice, and it has a nice click when you do it. On the other hand, if you wear it on your ear, you really have to press it, and that actually creates an echo through the ear thing themselves, as you hear it obviously in your skull, because you have to apply a good amount of pressure, but also in your ear. So I'm a bit conflicted here. I'm not sure if that is a good thing, so you don't press it accidentally or not. Next thing, I did not find this thing to have auto pause when you put it in the case. I'm not sure if it should have auto pause or not. It didn't work for me. I just put it in the case and it continued playing music from my smartphone. I don't know if it actually should be like that or not. In theory, the battery life should be 9 hours, at least it says in the datasheet, and I'm not sure if that is true here. When using it in every day at work, I think I managed to work one work day, and then on the next day, like I did manage a bit. You can turn them off, right? Unlike other earbuds or dongles, you can turn those off by pressing the button for I think 5 seconds or so. So I did just turn them off and placed these at my workplace and came back the next morning. And I didn't hear for I would say like 3-4 hours of the day. Then the next day at like 10 a.m. or so, they were empty. So I think the 9 hours might be a bit over exaggerated. I think more realistic would probably be like 8 hours, around that mark. So that is also something you should consider when buying this. It says 9 hours, but I think reality will not be 9 hours. Oh, and let me just mention here, I do not listen to music loudly. And I come to this, I think I talk about it directly here. Another problem of this dongle is the minimum volume is pretty high, meaning you will be having a decent and pretty good or bad volume depending on how loud you like to have your music. And for me, the minimum volume is already too high. I set my smartphone experimentally to just 1% increase per volume rocker hit, and it was still too loud at 1%. Like really, it's not like painfully loud or anything, but as audiophile you should know that your ear actually is not taking it lightly when you hear music too loud. And this isn't too loud volume for me for everyday usage. And other reviews mentioned that they don't get loud enough, which I can't. Seriously, I don't know how loud you're listening to music, but this at like 50% or so, it was like so loud that I was aware that I should turning it down as fast as possible. And when I started it, it was at like 50% when I put it out of the case, and I was like, oh god, I have to turn it down. So I really don't know what in-ears they are using, but the TNT2 Plus, they are a pretty good pairing in my experience. Like, if you do listen to music not as quiet as I do. And I do tend to listen to music relatively quiet. So next thing we should talk about is codecs. And yes, it does have aptX, as it said. However, because you do have a pretty normal latency of I think like 0.2 seconds or so, I think aptX LL would have been a better choice here. Because that would actually have allowed you to use those things for gaming or for movies better, or anything which requires a bit better latency. Also, there's no app, at least none I could find. So you will probably not be getting any updates, and if there are bugs in the software, which are always the case, like I never encountered any software which was bug-free, you will have to live with the bug because there's no update. The microphones did work okay. Not anything groundbreaking or bad. It's just okay. It's nothing to worry about if you do occasional calls from time to time. So yes, comfort I talked about, usability I think I covered also most points. Let's come to sound. And I think this is the shortest chapter of this review because I can tell you those are totally fine. They're not good, they're not bad, they're not 70 euro in case of sound, but you're mostly paying for usability here and or for the comfort. And that is everything, like it is all fine. And my main problem with this is these are not clean. Meaning they do boost mid-bass and they don't boost it in an unpleasant way. I just noticed it when comparing those directly with the BTR5 here and also with the SMSL SP200 in that direction. Those are not the cleanest dongles you can probably get. And the mid-bass boost I think is noticeable, but it's not unpleasant, as I said. I think it would just be a few dB, but it's definitely not what I do like about the T2 Plus here. And I think if you're just EQing your smartphones, or not smartphone, your audio anyway, you will probably be fine. You would just maybe you even like the mid-bass boost here. I don't, and I would EQ it a bit down, but for the sake of the review, I'm not doing any EQing because that would maybe not be what everyone else will be expecting or like getting when they're just using this thing. So yeah, as I said, the sound is okay. Some people claim that has a high noise floor, and to be honest, I really tried to like listen to really quiet music, and at my normal listening volumes, I do not notice any noise floor. if I crank it up to, I think like 60% or so, and I don't listen to anything, yes, there is an audible noise floor, and the noise floor is not super low, but in normal music usage, I never noticed any noise floor here. So that is probably a good thing, especially for the sale price is I think around like 50 to 60, maybe something like that. So that is definitely better than I expected. Also, I didn't notice any channel imbalance, meaning the left side and right side are whenever. I did only use both of them at once, right? Not just single and then paired the other one. I just used them both out of the case and connected them. So there, maybe your knowledge may vary, but I didn't notice any channel imbalance here. Also, they were synchronized well enough. Like I didn't notice any difference here. And as I said, besides of the sub, the mid-bass boost, those are totally fine. Sub-bass extension is good enough, treble extension is good enough, treble detail is good enough, mid-detail is good enough. I really don't think those needed to be any better, at least when we talk about their price being like 50 euro-ish or $50-ish. I think those are totally fine. And yeah, that kind of brings me to the conclusion here. I think those dongles are fine. They're not groundbreaking good, they're not bad, they do things well enough that you can actually get them without any second thought if they're on sale. And with this I mean, I paid like 42 euros I think for them, and that is a price which is totally fair for what you're actually getting here. However, if it is store priced 60 or 70 euros, how it is at the moment, I think those are too pricey. For 70 euros, I do expect a bit more. And I think the BTR3K is also, I think, around 70. And I really think that will sound better than those TRN adapters here. And yes, you will still have to live with your cable, but I don't know, like, since I have the BTR5 thingy here, I don't really think I do need the TVS. I think it's just fine to have a cable and a Bluetooth receiver. But that's just my opinion, that maybe you do want freedom of like TVS, and then those dongles, if they are on sale, will be a good price to performance ratio. So that covers about it. I did take a few notes. Let me just skim through them if I do have everything. Yeah, no app, I did cover that, no player power, yeah, no volume controller, I said, but that's really, put in second part here, give me volume control. That would have been really nice and would have made this dongle from just being kind of, okay, you can get it. So yeah, that's actually pretty usable and everyday for just comfort and usability wise. Oh, one thing before I close this review, the USB-C connector here is terrible. And yes, it has USB-C, which is nice, but this connector is not centered, it's too far on the inside, so actually using your normal USB-C cables can be difficult. And even my really thin Samsung included USB cable had problems in inserting here. So that's something you really have to keep in mind. If you want to get this, get a thin USB-C cable. Like the provided USB-C cable is really short, as I said, and I do like to just plug it in somewhere and then put it somewhere else. So that was just too short for me, and I just grabbed another USB cable I had lying around. Yeah, that was the last note of this review, I think. And yeah, I hope you enjoy your music, and you did have a good start of the new year 2021. And yeah, Donespektor out.